Hello and welcome to this teleconference session. Today we are back with a very hot and happening topic, as you would have already noticed on the screens. Yes, we are going to talk about nutritional demands of sports and dietary recommendations. In fact, we are going to talk about sports nutrition. Well, you know that different sports differ in their training, in their endurance, or in the type of training which goes into that sport. And because of this very reason, the nutrient requirements differ from sport to sport. Therefore, it is very important to understand what are the nutrient needs for a particular sport event, and today that is what we are going to talk about, that is the nutrient requirements for different sport events and how to plan diets for different events, how to plan first decide on the nutrient recommendations for sports persons, athletes, and how to plan these diets. In addition to this, we will also talk about the general principles involved in pre-event meals or post-event meals, and of course we will also take up a very controversial topic of sports supplements. Yes, many athletes today are taking these supplements to enhance their performance. What are these supplements? Are they really beneficial? Well, let us see. We will talk about these aspects in this program today. So then let us begin by first understanding what is sports nutrition. What does this discipline entail? If you look at the monitors, you find a simple definition of sports nutrition. Sports nutrition is a discipline which applies principles derived not only from nutritional but also biochemical and physiological scientific knowledge for the purpose of promoting optimal performance while remaining healthy. Now, in this definition, what is being highlighted? That sports nutrition does not just depend on the nutritional aspect, but it draws knowledge from other disciplines. What are these disciplines? Biochemistry, exercise physiology, anthropology. Knowledge from these fields are applied in promoting optimal performance of the athlete, at the same time also ensuring health and well-being of the athlete. Now, today sports nutrition as a discipline is being considered and taken very seriously. Coaches, athletes have realized the importance of nutrition. Not only training, not only the body composition will influence the performance of an athlete in an event, but having the right kind of food will also influence. Having the recommended nutrients as recommended for a particular sports event will also enhance the performance. This is being recognized, and the study of sports nutrition is gaining momentum. Unfortunately, there are not many courses being offered by universities, colleges in this area. However, sports nutrition as a topic is being taken up in many courses. Like in our dietetics program, we have a full-fledged topic on sports nutrition, and that is what we are going to talk about here now. Now, having understood this concept of sports nutrition, let us understand what do we mean by the nutritional demands of sports, or what are the recommended allowances which have been given. We will begin first with the energy requirements. In fact, if you look at the nutrient requirements of athletes, you would realize that this will depend primarily on three aspects: the kind of sport, the phase of training, and the dietary preference of an athlete. If you look at the monitors, you would notice we have just highlighted this aspect. The nutrient requirement of athlete should take into consideration, I said, a particular sport the athlete or the sport person is involved in. What kind of sport is it? Is it a team event? Is it an endurance event? Is it a power event? What these words mean, we will just get to it in a little while. But the kind of sport will influence the nutrient requirement. Then the phase of training. As you can see here, training phase will include the transition phase, pre-competition phase, competition phase, post-competition rest phase. We know that for any event, the main is the competition. All athletes or sports persons are actually training for the competition. And before the competition, there is the pre-competition phase. Even before the pre-competition, there's the transition phase where the athlete is preparing for the training. Now, all these phases will influence what would be the nutrient requirement. But the optimum and the at one time point, the competitive phase is the most important, for which we need to plan the diet. Therefore, the nutrient requirements will be based on these aspects which have been highlighted here. And coming to the energy requirements now. Well, what are the energy-rich sources or nutrients? Let us kind of recall our nutrition knowledge. Well, certainly we know that carbohydrates, fats, proteins, these are the three macronutrients which provide energy. Among these three, primarily carbohydrates and fats. These are the macronutrients which provide energy, or we utilize them for providing. Now, a general principle for sports person is that the nutrient, particularly the energy requirement, will vary from event to event. However, the general guideline is, as you would look on your monitors, you can see that the energy contribution from carbohydrate, protein and fat, like I said, will vary from event to event, and 55 to 65% of the total energy requirement should come from carbohydrates. On certain events, maybe 55%. On certain events which require glycogen storage or require more of energy outburst, in those conditions, maybe as much as 65% of the energy requirement should come from the 65. In this context, we will talk about glycogen loading in a little while from now. In addition to carbohydrates, the next important source are fats, and as you can see, 25 to 30% of the total calories should come from the fat in the diet. And lastly, we have the proteins. Well, certainly proteins, the major function is not to provide energy, but nevertheless, about 12 to 15% of the total energies can come from the protein sources, and most important, animal protein or sources or animal protein sources. About 55 to 60% of this total calories coming from protein should be from the animal sources. So as a general rule, that is what you see on your screens. 55 to 65% should come from carbohydrates, 25 to 30 from fats, and 12 to 15% of the energy requirements could be met by the proteins. Now, keeping this aspect in mind, we will now understand the energy recommendations. Now, I have just talked about two aspects. I have said that the energy requirement will depend upon the type of sport. Now, the type of sport differ in the training intensity. There are certain sports which require rigorous training, lot of intensity, and in these events, the energy expenditure will also be more. Whereas there are certain sports which would require rigorous training, but the intensity may not be as much. And there the energy requirement may not be as much as they would be. Now, considering this aspect, most of the sports activities are primarily categorized into 5 categories. And what are these categories? If you look at the monitors, we have categorized the different sport events into categories based on the energy expenditure to carry out these activities. The first group is the power events. The power events of higher weight category, that means a sports person weighing 80 kg and above, they may perform these power events. What are the examples? Weightlifting, boxing, wrestling, judo, throwing events like the javelin throw or the discus throw. All these are categorized as power events. The second category, if you see here, are the endurance events. And what are the examples of endurance events? You have the marathon, you have the long running or the distance running, you have walking, you have road cycling, rowing, middle and long distance swimming. these sports get categorized, or events get categorized as the Group 2 category of the events. Continuing on this, if we move further, you have the Group 3, which is the team events. Here, the athletic and the power events of middleweight category, that is 65 kg or so, are considered. Here you have all the team events like hockey, football, basketball, volleyball, tennis, sprints, jumping, boxing, wrestling, judo, swimming, all these kind of activities or events which require teamwork. Such games get categorized as team events. This comes under Group 3. You have the Group 4, which are events of lightweight category, where gymnastics, table tennis, boxing, wrestling, weightlifting and judo. All these events come under events of lightweight category. And lastly, you have the 5th category of events, which are the skill games like shooting, archery, equestrian. These get grouped under skill games. And like I've already informed, this grouping is done based on the energy expended in performing these events, and you would see that it is considerably different, and therefore this grouping has been done so as to come to the recommendations for energy. Now here we have taken the energy expenditure on a particular sport, and the second aspect you noticed, we were talking about the weight, the middle weight, the heavy weight, the low weight category. So these recommendations are primarily based on the event, the intensity, the duration of a sport event, plus the weight of the sports person. Considering these two aspects, certain recommendations have been worked out. Now, internationally, there is no one standard body which has given some recommendations which are to be followed by all athletes world over. So what is happening? Each country tends to work out recommendations for their own athletes and sports person. But nevertheless, in India, what we have done, we, based on the Western literature, we too have worked out, we meaning the National Institute of Nutrition, Hyderabad, and the Sports Authority of India, certain studies have been undertaken to look at the recommendations which have been given internationally and adapt it for our sports persons. And these recommendations which have been provided are what are provided on the screen for you now. If you look at them, here what we have done, we have provided the energy requirements for different categories of sports, as you see on your monitor now. These are the Group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 events, and for them what are the recommendations is what is given. Here you look at, we have given in terms of the body weight, and as you can see under the Group 1, 85 is the standard weight we have taken, and for an event in Group 1, the energy recommendations are, if you look here, 70 kilocalories per kg per day, and this roughly works out to 6,000 kilocalories per day. That means all sports person performing power events like weightlifting, boxing, wrestling, javelin throw, this kind of power events, these sports persons would require roughly 70 kilocalories per kg body weight, which works out to 7,000 kilocalories. And on your right, what you see here is the calorie ratio. That means the carbohydrate, protein, fat. We talked about the percentage weightage, how much of energy should, percentage of energy should come from these three nutrients. As you can see, 55 here, 15 and 30. The breakup for this 6,000 kilocalories is at the basis of 55% from carbohydrate, 15 from protein and 30 from here from fats. Now for the Group 2, if you notice, Group 2 we said were the endurance events, including marathon endurance, meaning where you require a lot of strength, stamina to continue on a event like marathon, long running, cycling. These where we've taken as the middle weight, what we call, where 65 kg is the norm we take, and 80 kilocalories per kg body weight. You see, for doing this kind of endurance event, more calories per kg body weight would be required, and this, because the weight we consider as 65, the total kilocalorie works out to 5,200 kilocalories for a person involved in this kind of events. And here the breakage is 60 for carbohydrates, 15 and 25. Now what do you notice here? You see an asterisk here which says below glycogen loading. What does this mean? Primarily, certain events require glycogen storage in the muscles, so that this glycogen can be spared for during the event, and for this a high carbohydrate diet is required. Therefore, certain events like the endurance events may require a higher intake of carbohydrates, or what we call as glycogen loading, which is important. This is an important concept in sports nutrition, and we need to look into these aspects. Similarly, in group 3, the group 3 where the team events, where basketball, hockey, those kind of events are concerned, and 70 kilocalories per kg body weight, and the requirements come to 4,500 kilocalories, and accordingly the breakup is given for you here on your right hand of the screen. Here you can also have a different kind of breakup where 64, see, from 55% we go up to 64. That means we are doing glycogen loading. We are enhancing the intake of carbohydrates, because during these events, sometime at one point of time there might be the glycogen stores may be required, need to be spared for a particular moment of time. Therefore, here at this point of time we can also have this kind of a breakage. Group 4, where we talk about 60 kilocalories per kg body weight. Here we are talking about lightweight category. We take it as 60 kgs, and this works out to 3,600 kilocalories. That means all persons involved in events of lightweight like gymnasts, table tennis, wrestling, weightlifting, these sports person would require roughly about 3,600 kilocalories to meet their energy requirements, and here the breakup is given for your consideration. And lastly, we have the skill games, where among the skills we said archery, equestrian, shooting, these kind of games you require about 50 kilocalories, because there's not much of that physical effort going into it as much as in the endurance event or the power event. Therefore, only 50 kilocalories per kg body weight, which leads to 3,000 kilocalories. Therefore, what you are watching on the monitor, these are the energy recommendations for the sports persons. Now, like I told you earlier before we touched this topic, that these recommendations are actually based on the Western literature, but studies have been done on Indian sports persons to see the suitability of these recommendations for Indian athletes, and most of the studies, what limited studies which have been done, show that our athletes maintain a positive energy balance with these kind of recommendations. Therefore, while planning diets for sports person, the energy requirements are important, and as you would see that these energy allowances differ from phase to phase based on the intensity of training and the type of event. As you can see that what is the phase of training the individual is going through, the competition phase, what you have seen the recommendations, these are at the point of the competition. However, if an athlete is during the transition phase or the post-competitive rest phase, the requirement certainly will be lower than what you saw. So depending on what phase of training the individual is or what event the sport person is involved, you have seen that the energy requirements vary. From energy requirements, now let us move on to the other macronutrients. Let us talk about next the protein requirements. How much protein should an athlete take? We have talked in terms of proportions that 15 to 20% maximum should be provided from the protein. Why? Obviously, proteins are not meant to give energy. What are the functions? let us recapitulate. If you look at the monitors, we are highlighting the functions of protein. Obviously, growth and maintenance of tissue, enzyme and hormone development, making antibodies, fluid and electrolyte and acid-base balancing are the major functions of protein. But energy, as an energy source, we know that 1 gram of protein provide 4 kilocalories. Yes, as much as carbohydrates. But proteins are not meant for energy. That is not the sole source of energy. It is meant to maintain the other functions we have just highlighted. So, 10 to 15% of the total energy should come from protein, as already highlighted. For an adult, normal, healthy man who is not a sports person, what are the requirements? Yes, 0.8 to 1 grams we say per kg body weight is what we recommend, as you can see on the monitor right now. Now, what happens during sports, or what are the recommendations for protein for sports person? For a kg of body weight, 1.2 grams here of protein is recommended, and these recommendations can, for very selective sport events, go up to 2 grams. But very selective, normally with 1.2 grams of protein per kg body weight. What does that mean? Say a sports person who weighs say 70 kgs. So according to it, 0.8 means what? 56 grams of protein. It will be just sufficient to meet the needs of this 70-year-old sports persons. We do not need more protein than 1.2 for a normal healthy adult person, but for a sports person it would go up to 1.2 grams like we are just talking about. So here we have talked about the protein requirements. What next then? In addition to protein requirements, let us now look at the carbohydrate requirements. What are the needs for carbohydrates? Or rather, what are the sources? We know that 55 to 65% of the total energy should come from carbohydrates. And can you recapitulate what are or how do you classify the carbohydrates? Yes, we have the simple carbohydrates and we have the complex carbohydrates. What are the simple carbohydrates? The simple carbohydrates, if you recall your knowledge about carbohydrates, we have the monosaccharides or we have the disaccharides. Now, among the monosaccharides, we have glucose, fructose, galactose, and among the disaccharides, we have the sucrose, lactose, maltose. And in addition to the simple, which is monosaccharide, disaccharides, the complex carbohydrates are the polysaccharides and the fiber. Among the fiber, the soluble, insoluble, as you can see on the monitor. This is just recapitulating what we already know about carbohydrates. So, even for an athlete, we need to depend on these simple and the complex carbohydrate. Now, the next important is for us is what are the food sources. That is what we need to know, and as you can see, the simple carbohydrates are sugar, honey, fructose, glucose, brown sugar, foods made, and all the foods which are made from these. They can be biscuits, they can be cookies, cakes, pies, candy, ice cream, the cold drinks. All these are sources of simple carbohydrate. They are sweet and they are the sources of simple carbohydrate. Now let us move on from these simple carbohydrates. Let us move on to the complex carbohydrates. Now, what are the complex carbohydrates we are talking about? In fact, the complex carbohydrates are the healthful sources of carbohydrate, and as you can see on the monitors, the healthful sources of complex are the whole grains such as oats, barley, millets, brown rice, all the products made from whole cereals. It could be your ingredients such as cereals, your chapatis or your rice or your tortillas or pastas, even legumes, lentils, pulses, beans, all these can come as sources of complex carbohydrate. In addition to this, you have your fruits and vegetables. Vegetables, yes, they will provide the complex carbohydrates, the polysaccharides, they will provide the fiber, but the fruits in particular would also provide the simple carbohydrates along with the complex carbohydrates. Now, what is it that we need to avoid? The less healthful complex carbohydrates. These are the refined carbohydrates like the white bread, noodles, such foods we need to avoid when we are talking about including foods in the diet of a sports person. Now, what we have to look, what are the wholesome, if you continue looking, we see the wholesome unrefined complex carbohydrates. So the focus should be given on these wholesome complex carbohydrates which are rich in fiber, rich in vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, have essential fatty acids, are also rich in antioxidants, and they promote satiety, promote the feeling of fullness, so that the athlete does not feel hungry very soon after having a meal. So among the carbohydrates, we've got a good idea about what kind of carbohydrates or foods providing these sources can be included in the diet. From here, we move on to the fat requirements. Quickly recapitulating, what are the fats? We know we have the saturated fatty acids, we have the monosaturates, the polyunsaturates, where we talked about the N3 and the N6 fatty acids, plus the trans fatty acids. As you can see on the monitor, saturated butter, cheese, meat, monosaturates, olives, rapeseed oil, nuts, canola. Among the polyunsaturates, you have the omega-3 or the omega-6, what we refer to as N3 and N6 fatty acids. These are the good fatty acids which needs to be included in the diet, and the food sources, as you can see on the monitors, for each one of this is already provided. We will not go into it. And a word of caution, trans fatty acids, which are not the healthful fatty acids, we need to avoid using these. These would include the baking fats like the hydrogenated oil, vanaspati. This needs to be avoided, or avoid including these in the diet of the sports person. Therefore, if we were to kind of sum up what we need, what should be the requirement, finally, here we have moderate consumption of fat and a balance between saturated and unsaturated fats, which means reduce total dietary fat to what? Less than 30% of the total calories. That we have been repeating throughout, that not more than 30%, 25 to 30% of calories should come from fat, and out of this, as you can see, reduce the saturated fat intake to 10% of the total calories. So this is what we need to consider when we are considering the fat intake. We have talked about the macronutrients so far. We've talked about energy requirement obtained from carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and we have individually looked at how much of carbohydrates, how much of protein, how much of fat should come from or energy should come from these nutrients. In addition to these macronutrients, the role of micronutrients is very important. Micronutrients, well, you know, the vitamins and minerals. What is their major function? Their major function is in repair of body, in maintenance of body tissue, in metabolic processes. They play a very important role. And the most important role is the antioxidant property, which is they fight the free radicals. Therefore, the micronutrients play a very important role in the diet of a sports person. And let us look at what are the recommendations or what are the nutrients which we need to consider when we are talking about a sports person. The micronutrients: increased physical activity necessitates higher intakes of vitamin, particularly C, B1, B2, A and E. Now, when we are talking about these nutrients, you would see that very often the requirement for these nutrients can be easily met if our energy requirements are met. Meaning that if our energy requirements are as recommended, then it is very likely that the requirement for these vitamins and minerals are met. As you also know, being a nutrition student, that like your thiamine, vitamin B1, riboflavin B2, their requirement is directly linked with the energy requirements. So if your energy requirements are being met, very often these vitamin minerals will be met if your energy requirements are being met. Therefore, no extra supplement actually needs to be included in the diet of the sports person if their energy requirements are being met. In addition to this, losses of minerals can also occur when there is strenuous exercise on the part of the athlete, and losses of iron and magnesium are the most, particularly for female athletes when they are training in very hot conditions and when they are sweating. The loss of iron and even calcium can occur under such conditions. If there is a situation where there is depletion of iron, calcium, at those times it is very important to provide iron and calcium supplements. But on a normal healthy diet meeting the energy requirements, we do not need any extra iron or calcium supplement. But like I said, if it is a situation where there are losses of these, then a calcium supplement may be given. About 2.2 milligram per day is recommended for calcium, which can go up to 3 grams per day. But we need to be cautious about overdose, because overdose of these supplements can also have ill effect on the performance or on the health of the athlete. So we need to understand this before recommending any supplement or extra nutrient mineral in the diet of the athlete. This is an important aspect. So we've talked about the vitamin minerals or the micronutrients. Another important nutrient is the dietary fiber. Now, if you look at the monitors, you would see that recommendation for a healthy amount of dietary fiber varies from 25 to 48 grams a day for a diet ranging from 3000 to 7000 kilocalories. Therefore, this is the ideal amount which needs to be included in a diet of an athlete depending on the kilocalorie intake. Examples are hemicellulose, pectin, gums. These are the fibers naturally found in food. But what is important to us? What are the foods which will give? As you can see, the foods which have highest amount of fiber are beans, legumes, peas. Most fruits and vegetables, seeds, nuts are rich in fiber, and foods that contain no fiber are milk, meat, egg, sugar and alcohol. So we are talking about dietary fiber. As you can see, about 25 to 48 grams a day is the recommendations. In addition to dietary fiber, another very important aspect we need to consider while talking about the recommendations or the nutritional demands is the fluid intake, the fluid balance. We know that most of these exercises or most of these sports training for the sports or the sports events put great demands on the body. The fluid intake, the fluid requirements must match the losses which are taking place while training. And in this high intensity events, if you notice that high intensity games lead to heavy losses resulting in fluid and electrolyte imbalance. Now, under such situations, for maintaining an optimum or promoting optimum performance on the part, we need to look at the fluid balance. Fluid balance meaning the fluid intake should balance the fluid loss. Fluid loss in the form of sweat primarily. Now, generally what is being recommended, or for heavy exercises, if you look at this, you have heavy exercises, sweat losses. They are to the tune of 1 to 2 liters per hour, depending on the intensity, duration, temperature, humidity at that point of time. 1 to 2 liters per hour of fluid loss can take place for a sports person. So athletes who are physically active and exposed to hot environment require fluids, and what is it? Their requirement increases from 5 to as much as 5 to 16 liters per day, depending on what the situation is at that point of time. Therefore, whatever is the loss that needs to be replenished, this is very important. And the general rule when we are talking about it is that for athletes to replace the body water loss, what we have, athletes should replace body water loss during training competition using the guideline that 1 kg of body weight lost equals 1 liter of water lost. Therefore, suitable fluid replacement is absolutely necessary. For every kg body loss, 1 liter of water is to be provided. And therefore, based on this guideline, fluid replacement or fluid hydration guidelines have been suggested. As if you notice, here is that fluid replacement guideline. Before the activity, the sports person, before he goes, 1 to 2 hours before, 500 ml is the amount of fluid which needs to be given. And what type of beverages? Plain cold water is the best. Then 10 to 15 minutes before the activity or before the event, up to 600 ml of fluid can be given in the form of plain cold water, diluted fruit juices, glycogen electrolyte drinks. This is before the activity. What is the situation during the activity? How can we replenish, or how can we provide enough fluid during the activity? Every 10 to 15 minutes, about 150 to 250 ml of fluids must be given. And as you can see, similarly glucose electrolyte drinks, fruit juices, plain cold water can be given. What about after the activity or after the event? This is the most important. We need to begin immediately after the event. We need to compensate the loss in body weight with equal amount. What is the principle? 1 kg body loss or weight loss is equal to 1 liter of water. That is how we compensate, and this needs to start. And again, what kind of beverages? As you can notice, this is the kind of beverages, plain water, and these can be given. Therefore, there are certain tips which one needs to understand when we are talking about the pre-event hydration or during event hydration. There are certain aspects which we need to look at, and that is what we will quickly, these are the tips. I mean, we have followed the hydration, the guidelines which we have just presented. In addition to that, what are the things we need to consider? As you can see, an athlete should empty the bladder 15 minutes prior to the event. The athlete should drink cold water. Why cold water? Because it is absorbed faster, it cools the body better as compared to water at room temperature. Then the athlete should sip water rather than gulp water. These are little tips which are handy, which can be actually given to the athlete or suggested to the athlete. Now, this was about the fluid. What about electrolytes? Electrolytes, what are electrolytes? We know sodium, potassium, chloride. These are the electrolytes which are present in the body, and during strenuous exercise, along with the fluid, these electrolytes also get lost. And what do? These losses occur along with sweat. And if you look at the monitor, what happens to replace these electrolytes like sodium, potassium? Ideally, the food will help replace. But when it is a very strenuous or when the loss is heavy, in those cases, there are certain sport drinks which are available, which are rich in sodium, chloride, potassium. In addition to this, foods like here, coconut water, fresh fruit juice, sugarcane juice, preparation made of honey, salt and water, all these will help replenish the electrolytes from the body. Now, we have talked about macronutrients, micronutrients, fiber, fluid. One aspect which we would now like to talk about, the sports supplements. Like I said, it's a controversial topic, but nevertheless, you have seen many sports persons depending on these sports supplements to enhance their performance. Commonly used, you've heard of growth hormones, you have heard of steroids, you have heard of creatine, you have heard of caffeine. Athletes resorting or taking these substances to enhance their performance. What are these? These are ergogenic aids. What do we mean by ergogenic aids? If you look at your monitors, an ergogenic aid is defined as any substance, food, chemical or a training method that helps the body perform better and work hard. Now, in this context, we also use nutritional ergogenic aid. What is a nutritional ergogenic aid? It is any substance which is found in diet, particularly in diet, from the food or cells that are ingested in an effort to produce, improve or enhance sport, exercise and physical performance. Examples, very often the athletes would take amino acid or protein supplements. They say that if you want to enhance your power, take lot of protein, lot of egg, lot of milk to enhance your power. Well, do we really need it? Based on what we have just talked about, what we need, only 1.2 grams per kg body weight is the protein requirements, which can be easily met from the normal food. So you do not need any protein or amino acid supplements in extra, because they can actually put more burden on the body rather than helping the body to perform better. In addition to this, there is other, like the creatine supplement, which many athletes tend to take. What does it do? It basically increases the amount of ATP. ATP is the energy powerhouse. This increases the amount of ATP in the muscles and thereby allowing for greater contraction and increased strength and power. Many athletes for explosive events are normally resorting to having creatine as a supplement to get that boost. But is it required? Well, it might be in some cases, but it has a negative effect on kidney functions and it promotes dehydration. Therefore, we need to understand this before we take this. Similarly, vitamins. We have already talked about vitamins. If our diet is meeting the energy requirements, very often most of the vitamin mineral requirements are met. Therefore, extra supplements are not required, but under conditions when a particular nutrient is deficit, iron, calcium, magnesium or some other, in those situations it is important to supplement the diet with these supplements. But under normal conditions, they may not enhance the performance or may not help the athlete person at all. Similarly, among the minerals, you have the calcium, iron. As I've already informed, only under the deficiency condition or under situations where losses are higher, we need to give a supplement. If not, it is not requirement. In fact, with calcium supplement, most two serious effects is the renal damage and deposit of calcium in the body. Therefore, here we are talking about these ergogenic aids, whether they are important. Very often there are certain herbs also which are recommended, and these herbs have side effects of dizziness, anxiousness, so they are best avoided. As you can see, the stimulating herbs, they lead to nervousness, irregular heartbeat and deadly in some cases. Therefore, we have now one important thing, that a pre-event meal is also important. What meal you should take before, and particularly for certain events, carbohydrate loading is very important, as I've already talked earlier. So what we've talked about now, we have given you a good idea about what are the nutrient recommendations, what kind of food, diet we need to include in the diet of a sports person, and what are these ergogenic aids and their role in the diet. With this, we end this program. Thank you.